The $1 Million Movie won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about Zardoz. Zardoz.
Beyond 1984. Beyond 2001. Beyond life. Beyond death.
Zardoz.
Oh, man. This movie, I love this movie so much.
It is... If you have not seen this movie...
From the top, it's not a good movie.
Well, it's not a bad movie.
No.
It's wholly interesting. It's a really cool look into like counterculture.
Yeah.
Like the dying of the counterculture in the 60s. It was almost like a treatise on, what would happen if the elites took over.
Right.
The hippie druggy elites. Love how Roger Ebert said it, perpetually stone set decorators. And it's like the most perfect.
All of it. The costumes, the set design, the production design, everything.
It's as if rich theater people took over the world. Because that's what it's like. It's a bunch of overly dramatic, bored, beautiful, rich immortals sitting on top of Mount Drugs and letting everybody else just fend for themselves.
What else are they going to do with their time? They're immortal. They're going to live forever.
Well, what's so weird, too, is, granted, John Borman was on a lot of drugs when he wrote this movie.
Yes, he was.
A lot of drugs.
Yes, he was.
And so not everything makes sense, but the thing that kind of got to me, the thing that I found interesting was that at the beginning, Zardoz had the Sean Connery people...
The Brutals.
The Brutals.
Well, they were the exterminators.
The exterminators, just murdering the peons.
The Brutals. They were exterminating the Brutals.
Right. Just killing them. Man, woman, child.
All of them, yeah.
And then they decided to have them make bread. Now, did the Immortals not have to eat before that?
I don't think it mattered, because if they died... No matter how they died, they would be reborn.
Right, as a baby.
So you could starve to death, and then you would be reborn.
Gross green bread, too. Molded bread.
Yeah, he walks in the first time and he sees it, and he kind of tries to break it in half, and then he just bangs it against the table and throws it
away because it looks gross. But
it's all weird and green.
So Zardoz turns the exterminators into farmers, and my favorite shot is... So the poor Brutals are farming, sticking their sticks in, working hard.
Yeah.
And the exterminators just standing there looking super bored and pissed. And then one of them falls over, and then Connery just nonchalantly just shoots him, just kills him.
Fun fact, the guy that falls over was John Borman.
Nice. Well, no wonder he shot him. That's hilarious. But it's just such a wackadoo weird.
It's so weird.
This is 70s Stoner Month.
Yes.
And
yes.
I have said this before. Our longtime listeners know for a fact that 70s sci-fi is my favorite one of my favorite genres of film of all time.
This is a perfect example as to why.
Exactly, because it doesn't make a lick of sense.
But it's entertaining.
It's super. Look, watching James Bond strut around in thigh-high boots, a red diaper, and crisscross bandoliers, basically looking like he's wearing a singlet.
A mankini.
Yeah, I thought he was wearing a singlet for years until I saw this again. And not to mention the big old ponytail.
God, that hair goes all the way down to his butt.
Swash, swish, swash, swashing. Look, that's worth the price of admission right there.
The Zapata mustache.
Oh my God. I mean, there's so much. It's like, they were just like, okay, what is the opposite of James Bond? Long hair, mustache, not cool clothes,
half naked the whole time.
Good God, and God bless him, he wasn't in the best shape in the world either.
Yeah, but he supposed to look pretty good.
He's jiggly.
I mean, yeah. He's also, I think he was around our age when he was doing this.
I ain't no Slim Goodbody. I mean, those in fat houses.
It was all his hair just covered up his rolls.
Well, also when he was. Running that rickshaw, his little boobies with jigs.
Oh my God.
Jiggly, 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 jiggly.
So weird. The movie's so weird.
It is so weird. But I have noticed that if you're hirsute, you can be a little chubby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
White, doughy guys like me, you can't hide it.
Yeah.
You know, if there's no hair, you just look like a giant fat child.
I will say, watching it again this time, I understood the story more than I ever have before. Which was interesting because I was pretty high the entire time we watched it.
I think you have to be.
It made more sense. We watched it on a Blu-ray I got and on a really nice TV, and it looked gorgeous.
Oh, it did.
And it actually made more sense. And really, honestly, I had more appreciation for Sean Connery's acting with that like kind of mid-twist of him like being able to read and like knowing, you know, like knowing more what was going on. It made more sense. The choices he made at the beginning of the movie.
Because you don't know how he gets into the floating head that ejaculates guns
from its mouth.
And it's all a mystery. But then, you know, when you realize he's kind of been planning this for a while.
Yeah.
You know, he's been working up to it and educating himself and
under tutelage. I mean, like he was definitely being manipulated.
Manipulated, yes, but still showing that humanity has the desire to learn.
And
the desire for knowledge,
totally.
regardless of how brutal they try to force roles upon them.
Right. Yeah, I love that she was like, so you learned to read? And he was like, yeah, it was kind of easy.
Yes, it came to me quite naturally.
It's like,
I read Hop on Pop by Dr. Seuss.
It's such a weird movie. And
One fish, two fish,
the only thing that would have made it stranger was that if they had actually set it the original timeline they wanted to, which was 5 years after the movie was released in 1979 or something.
Yeah. They could at least made it 84 to
something.
You know,
it just made
I don't know if we would have gone that completely radical in 4 years.
In 4 years.
Although I don't know,
you never know.
2016 to 2020, things changed quite a bit. But
that is true.
But look, this is the perfect, like Adam said, this is the perfect example of why I love 70s sci-fi, because big swings. Big swings. And a lot of times these are big, socially conscious swings.
Yes.
A little ham-fisted sometimes, but it's also trying to say something. All of these sci-fi movies, whether it's this or Soylent Green, and even Omega Man to some extent.
Yeah.
You know, they all have these either racial undertones, these societal undertones,
like these,
or
dealing
climate,
with huge problems,
climate change undertones, you know, overpopulation. It's like it's they were trying to show us what would happen 30 years down the line, and we never listened.
Nobody paid attention.
No.
50 years later, we're all like, well, I guess we should have paid more attention to Soylent Green.
Yeah, Soylent Green was last year. We've been eating people for a year, Adam.
Yeah.
It's saltines are made of people.
All right, well, take yourself back to 1974. January 17th, 22-year-old Robert Jameson, an Ulster Defense Regiment soldier, is shot and killed by the Irish Republican Army while returning home from work in Trillick, County Tyrone. The same day, 73-year-old Catholic civilian Daniel Hughes is shot and killed during a loyalist gun attack on Boyle's Bar in, I'm not going to say this right, County Tyrone.
Kappa.
Capaf. Anyway, it's somewhere in County Tyrone in Ireland.
My God, the
Troubles, as they call them?
The Troubles, which is an extremely polite way of...
a very British way of saying a revolution.
Yes. It was basically the Catholics against the Protestants.
Yeah.
And it was a religious war. Well, it was a political war disguised as a religious war.
It was easy to separate them out with the religious.
You had Sinn Féin, which is now a political organization. It used to be a terrorist organization, or was classified as such. There were bombings, there were murders, there were killings.
Car bombs everywhere,
all over religion.
Yeah.
People talk about
religion isn't even that different.
Well, look, man, it's people crow about the Middle East, everybody's crazy in Iran and Iraq. It happened in Ireland.
Yeah.
It happened in Europe.
Yeah.
It's happening here.
My perfect example, my most wonderful example of that is in the show Cheers with Woody and his girlfriend, and how they're both like some kind of weird Protestant thing. And then he's like, but she kneels and I don't. And then there's like, I don't know if I can do this. And it's like, really? That's it? That's your thing? He's like, well, they're heathens. I can't,
It's so scarily true.
Yes. Yeah.
How it's these tiny little differences that cause people to lose their ass and kill each other.
Insane. So many Irishmen, so many British soldiers died because they were just like, the British was like, nope, You can't be Catholic. Sorry.
And not just soldiers, children.
I know.
Civilians.
I know. Mostly Irish.
Right.
Yeah.
But so many people killed needlessly over this bizarre...
Pointless.
Colonization. It's basically down to the English colonization and wanting to keep control of Ireland and Scotland and all of the other...
There's resources there that they need,
Well... Aaron go Bry.
Anyway, January 31st, actress Linda Lovelace is arrested on drug possession charges at the Dunes Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada.
She was an adult film actress, Adam.
She was.
Was she Deep Throat?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes.
That was the big,
That was kind of the mainstream.
Yeah, the mainstream of pornography. There was this brief time where people were like, porn's cool. And so they got into it. But poor Linda Lovelace...
Yeah.
She had a tough time afterwards. Not good. Drugs and religion and all sorts of stuff.
I just found it very funny that she was arrested for drug possession charges, and they made an entire movie while doing drugs called Zardoz.
Zardoz!
No one apparently cared.
Well, it was an island.
February 1st, fire breaks out in the Jolima building in Sao Paulo, Brazil. 177 people die, 293 are injured, and 11 die later of their injuries.
Good Lord.
Badness, people dying, yes.
That's awful.
Terrible. February 6th, Zardoz premieres in New York and Los Angeles.
Zardoz! That's awful. That's horrible. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well. Depending on who you talk to. I guess there was just a lot. I mean, there was obviously a lot of unrest happening in 74.
Yes.
This was a very, important movie, but it was definitely a movie of its time.
Sure, definitely. I mean, we're coming to the end of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
We have all this unrest going on in Ireland and in the Middle East. And, the Munich wasn't that far off. The Munich.
No, it was about 5 years later.
Yeah, but still, it was just everybody was just fighting.
Yeah, it was just a lot of everyone chose violence. Jim.
Yes, there was hijackings. There was just a ton of crap going on.
Yeah. So, Zardoz actually starts with a literary masterpiece, J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, and filmmaker John Boorman.
None shall pass.
The little-known fact, I want to make a joke that Zardoz is based on The Lord of the Rings, but it's not, and I can't even do that because that would be a disservice to both.
Yes. Well, yes. It's not called... the Grings.
Or the Drings.
Drings.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Lord of the Rings.
I'm going to be a little too on the nose for John Boorman.
Yes.
Tolkien had reluctantly sold the movie rights to United Artists to set up a trust for his grandchildren. Tolkien would die in September 1973.
Oh.
Apparently earlier, the Beatles had actually shown interest in buying the film rights and doing an animated film, but Tolkien hated the idea.
We're the hobbits. We're the hobbits. Yeah, we're a hobbit.
I cannot stress enough how much Tolkien hated animation.
Well, poor guy. He got a lot of animation. Well,
considering, yes.
That Lord of the Rings animated movie is
it's
a
great.
Masterpiece.
I know, don't get me wrong. So's The Hobbit. They're both really good.
Insane.
He just was not happy about that idea.
My sister doesn't like animation either.
Weird.
Yeah, she's not a fan. That's like the one thing... The difference between she and I is my absolute adoration for animation, and she just does not like it.
Phoebe's not a huge fan of adult animation. Like, she'll watch Disney stuff, but, not any of the adult animation things. Like, I've tried to get her into cartoons.
But try to get into the cartoons.
But I try to, and she's just like, nah, I just don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
I feel that same way about mafia stuff. Generally, mob movies, I just don't really care.
Yeah, reality TV.
Yeah.
Competition shows like Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, those competition shows.
Masked Singer.
Game shows are cool, but yes, the reality competition shows are just who cares?
I don't.
Apparently, everybody else does because that stuff makes a lot of money.
Yeah, cheap to make. You're gonna see a lot more of them with the writer's strike. That's for sure.
Oh my God, there's gonna be so many. So John Boorman had just come off directing Deliverance, starring Burt Reynolds, released in 1972.
Squeal like a piggy, squeal like a piggy, wee, wee, wee.
The movie was a smash hit and was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, Best Picture, losing to The Godfather.
There's no disgrace in that. No shame in that.
Best Director, losing to Bob Fosse for Cabaret.
Okay, Cabaret was good.
Yeah. And Best Film Editing, also losing to Cabaret. Cabaret would actually set a record that year for winning the most awards without winning Best Picture.
Interesting. I would disagree. I think the direction in Deliverance is
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And it just cemented him as a master.
Yeah.
That movie was so ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And it's such a... Have you seen the movie,
Of
right?
course.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I've shared the story a couple of times on the show I was exposed to that movie very young. Let's just do a quick recap. Real young kid, get a VCR. The old man likes movies. Gets delivered, so we're watching it. All of a sudden, the scene comes on, the rape scene of Ned Beatty. And I'm like, what are they doing? And the old man, without missing a beat, takes a sip of his drink. They're raping him. And I was so shocked. I was like, they can do that? I was so shocked. I didn't know, guys. So a whole new fear was awakened in me as a child from that movie. But still, even through that traumatic experience, and also I think even more traumatic was that compound fracture that Burt Reynolds gets when the canoe goes over. Oh my God. That is such a harrowing movie. It is such a great movie of survival. Ronnie Cox is so good in it. He's the one playing the ding 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 ding.
I've never felt more like into a movie, like identifying with the characters so immediately.
Oh yeah.
Of like, oh my God, like this is happening.
Well, they do an amazing job of making you a part of this trip.
Yeah.
Because it's very innocuous at the beginning. It's just some buddies going out. They need to go out and do some bow hunting and canoeing.
They just want to get out and
get out
men.
and do their thing. Yeah. And boy, does it turn.
In 1970, Borman had directed Leo the Last, a film with a bunch of Italian actors and a strange, indiscernible plot. I honestly wrote it down, and it was literally half a page long, so I just cut it.
Okay, I didn't see that one.
It had been passed over by most major studios, but the head of United Artists picked it up despite not liking the script.
I hate it, but I'll buy it anyway.
Yeah.
But I hate it.
Unsure what to do with The Lord of the Rings, they turned to John Borman, who had presented them with a script about Merlin, but had been turned down. He was really obsessed with Merlin.
Well, yeah. I mean, later on, he's going to do Excalibur.
Yeah,
with the greatest Merlin ever. My Merlin. More Merlin.
All of his movies are very oddly connected.
Yes. Yeah. What did he keep saying? Oh, King of the Britons. Isn't that what he kept saying?
It's been a long,
King of the Britons.
Long time since I've seen Excalibur.
Yes, Mordor. Such a good movie. He would have been great doing Lord of the Rings, honestly.
Well, yes and no. I think it would have been good. It would have been of the time. I think in hindsight, it's a good thing that he didn't make it.
Okay. I would have liked to see it.
I liked what Jackson did later. I mean, obviously much later, but...
Well, sure.
But...
Of course.
It would have been... I think it would have been a disappointment to people.
I don't know. I think I would still want to see it. I want to see
I don't disagree.
Even Borman's quotey quotes failures are still super effing interesting.
And that's the beauty of 70s sci-fi. Even the failures are still interesting.
More interesting sometimes.
Yeah. Zardoz. So he took Rospo Pallenberg, an architect with screenwriting dreams, to Ireland to write the screenplay for The Lord of the Rings. Rospo was just some weird random dude that he met and was like, yeah, let's go write this for 6 months together.
Do you want to come write Lord of the Rings with me?
I'm sure they were probably doing drugs together.
Hey, I have a crazy idea. Why don't you come and write Lord of the Rings with me? I'm not a writer. I'm just a carpenter.
Architect.
I'm just an architect. I just make houses. Well, help me build the house of Lord of the Rings.
He did, in fact, to the point where Rospo took pages of the Lord of the Rings book and covered an entire room with them. Literally wallpapered the entire room with pages from Lord of the Rings.
How does that help?
Borman said,
we worked in that room, literally, inside the book.
Over the course of 6 months, they turned 1,000 pages into a single 2.5 to 3 hour screenplay.
Nice.
The script is actually in the archives of the University of Marquette and is available to the public.
I definitely want to read that.
You can. There are some really good articles that break down like how, like a lot of people are impressed. They're like, yeah, they pretty much got the story in 3 hours, but there's so much stuff that was cut out.
Well, of course, it's a 1,000-page book
and things that were changed and whatnot. But like people mostly read it and go, oh, okay, like that could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they also had to go with. They had to deal with the restrictions of the time. You know, they didn't have a lot of.
Yes.
I mean, they could have still done the forced perspective and stuff. I mean, that was still going on, but you know, they would have had to build all the sets and build all the stuff and matte paintings and everything.
Yeah. During the writing process, Leo the Last was released and, surprise, did not do well. United Artists had a series of duds. They also realized that the Lord of the Rings script was going to require a lot of special effects that would literally need to be invented, thus costing a ton of money.
Yeah.
They promptly shut down the project. Eventually, UA would buy the script outright for $3 million as they eventually tasked Ralph Bakshi to make an animated version of the series.
Did they go off of the script? Of Borman's script?
No, but the point is that they bought the script so that way Borman couldn't sue and say, "Oh, you used my script without paying me." Yeah,
No, not bad.
yeah. I mean, he got paid $3 million for 6 months of work.
Yeah, that's 70s $3 million.
Yeah. Borman would go on to use some of those special effects ideas for Zardoz and future films. There was a good example near the very end. I don't know if you noticed the forced perspective when she was pregnant. "Quote unquote" pregnant, like they had her in the front and there was a pregnant person behind. You could kind of tell.
You could totally
but
tell.
it was like that forced perspective kind of thing. It was like, okay.
It was a little jiggly. I was like, this doesn't look right.
But that's precisely why I feel like the Lord of the Rings from John Borman would be kind of right, but not. Yeah. After Merlin and the Lord of the Rings, Borman couldn't get the idea of mystical, magical worlds out of his head, so he turned
out of my head.
Turned to his friend Bill Stair to help him flesh out some ideas.
Does he have any friends with normal names?
Nope.
Okay.
No, he's John Borman.
I'm Borman. This is Stair. This is Jubals. And this is Jingy Jangle-Doo.
Rospo.
And Rospo.
Bill Stair had worked on Borman's first feature, Point Blank, in 1967 as a film colorist.
Okay.
Point Blank was a neo-noir that starred Lee Marvin.
It's good.
I have never seen Point Blank. It's
is.
one of those that's high on my list, and I definitely, now even higher.
Yeah, it's just a banger with Lee Marvin being Lee Marvin. It's awesome.
Yeah. Bill Stair had helped Borman write Leo the Last. Bill Stair would go on to create the British TV drama Boone, which ran for 93 episodes between 1986 and 1993.
Boone. What's it about?
He had a good career. It was, it's kind of, I think it's similar to...
Daniel Boone?
No. He's like a constable or a cop or
Oh,
something.
I like most of the English shows.
Yeah.
I'm a constable in a small town. And I solve crimes.
I think that was the concept. Borman said that he
wanted to make a film about the problems of us hurtling at such a rate into the future that our emotions are lagging behind.
that is definitely Zardoz.
That's where we're at now. I mean, honestly, that's really where we are now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're moving socially forward. We have been moving socially forward in a way that right now we're seeing the backlash.
Yeah. Backlash.
We're seeing the backlash of the people that aren't intellectually capable of accepting these things.
Yes, they don't have the emotional
intelligence
to be able to
follow
this stuff,
right, or to be able to adapt and change with the changing times. They're free. They're skilled, Adam.
They're so skilled. The original draft was set 5 years in the future and was about a university lecturer who became obsessed with a young girl whose disappearance prompted him to seek her out in the communes where she had lived. Borman visited some communes for research, but decided to set the story far in the future when society had collapsed.
Yeah, right, for research. He was just smoking dope and getting laid. That's what he was doing.
Yes, he was.
Hi, I'm director. Hello, I'm Director John Borman. I'm just here to do some research. Oh, is that marijuana? May I have a puff? Thank you. Oh, your top's off. Shall we go skinny dipping? This is all research. It's research. This is research.
Borman says he developed the Emergent Society, focusing on a central character
who penetrated it. He'd be mysteriously chosen and at the same time manipulated. And I wanted the story to be told in the form of mystery, with clues and riddles which unfold, the truth slowly peeled away.
The script was influenced by the writings of Frank L. Baum, T.S. Eliot, and Tolkien, and drew inspiration from medieval Arthurian quests.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, surprise, this is all John Borman thinks about, apparently.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the fact that Zardoz... spoiler alert.
Yes. The whole Wizard of Oz. Yes, it was.
Spoiler alert.
I know. Look, it doesn't matter. We could sit and explain this movie, and you're still not going to have the joy of watching it all the way through.
Watching Zardoz.
Zardoz. Yes. Borman said,
"It's about inner rather than outer space. It's closer to the better science fiction literature, which is more metaphysical. Most of the science fiction that gives the genre a bad name is adventure stories and space clothes."
Yeah, recall this was pre-Star Wars, and most of those type of sci-fi movies were not good.
Oh, yeah. Sci-fi was the redheaded stepchild of the movie business. Yeah. It was almost as bad as horror movies. Sometimes even worse. Mostly relegated to the drive-ins.
Yep.
Not a lot of respect.
Yeah.
2001 started changing that.
Yes, it did.
But that was a rare There wasn't a ton of 2001s after that.
No, there were not. If this explanation of his idea doesn't make sense, don't worry. No one else made sense of it either. Borman said,
nobody wanted to do it. Warners didn't want to do it, even though I'd made a shitload of money for them.
Yeah, I mean, he came with a script that literally didn't make sense. So
like, John, we love you, man, but what the F?
I just got a bill for, you staying 5 weeks at a commune? What's that all about?
Yeah, what's going on, baby? You can't write off marijuana.
His then agent, David Begelman, knew the head of 20th Century Fox wanted to make a film with the director and offered the executive the script to read, but insisted on a decision within 2 hours.
Oh, good move.
Begelman said that to the head of 20th Century Fox,
it's either yes or no. You have no approvals, and it's $1 million negative pickup.
Borman said that
the Fox guy came to London, and I was very nervous, so we went to lunch whilst he read the script. When he finally came out of the office, his hand was shaking, clearly with no idea what to make of it. Begelman went straight up to him and said, "Congratulations!" He never gave the poor guy a chance.
Side note, in February 1977, it was discovered through actor Cliff Robertson that Begelman had embezzled $75,000 from Columbia Pictures.
Okay.
Columbia wanted to keep it out of the press, but Robertson felt obligated to make sure people knew what Begelman did, which pissed off the studio heads and blacklisted Robertson.
That's so awful.
Later, a journalist found out that Begelman had lied about attending Yale while researching the story for New West magazine.
Begelman's a bad boy.
Begelman had listed in the Who's Who Hollywood rag that he had attended Yale, so the journalist called and was told he never attended. From the article,
although Begelman was indicted for forgery and grand theft, the Hollywood types were more outraged that he had listed Yale in Who's Who. Apparently, they figured that everybody steals money. It was the fact that he lied about Yale that drove them crazy.
To wit, in January 1980, Begelman became COO and president of MGM, signing a 4-year contract worth $1.9 million.
What?
Despite the fact that he embezzled a ton of money.
I hate this business. I hate it.
This is precisely why John Borman made all his movies in Ireland.
I don't blame him, man. This business is just a corrupt, awful business.
Oh, it's awful. They were more mad about the fact that he lied about his past than the fact that he was blatantly stealing money from them.
75 grand is dropping the
bucket.
It's
not a lot, but
still.
Today, 75 grand. Tomorrow, 175 million.
Yeah, well, he got rewarded with a $2 million contract.
He did.
Begelman.
In April,
buys a lot of bagels.
It does. In April 1973, Borman announced the film would star Burt Reynolds and Charlotte Rampling.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds.
Reynolds had previously worked with Borman in Deliverance. However, Reynolds had to pull out due to illness. Rumors are that his quote-unquote illness was quote-unquote overwork.
I don't know. He did work really hard.
I'm sure he did. I mean, don't get me wrong. My guess is that he actually read the script and was like,
I don't want to be wearing a diaper the whole time, John.
John, I wasn't on the drugs you were doing when you wrote this.
I swear to God, I can totally see him. I can see him doing it. I can see
100%. He would have been amazing in this movie.
Look, honestly, he's pretty interchangeable.
Yeah,
with Sean Connery.
No,
they're both kind of tough guys.
Yeah.
One's Irish, one's not. I mean, they both have stashes. Yeah. They both got that hirsute body.
They have that same acting style. He could have easily pulled it off.
Yes, he would have been fine. It would have been the same movie.
Yeah, I honestly think you're right. It would have been. Borman offered the part to Richard Harris, but Harris never responded.
Yeah, Richard Harris was drunk at the time.
Richard Harris, yes, I'm sure he was.
Are you S-ing me? Are you S-ing me? You want me to wear a diaper and have a ponytail and ride around in a head that ejaculates guns? Are you S-ing me?
Burt Reynolds was eventually replaced by Sean Connery. Connery had just come off his 6th Bond film, Diamonds Are Forever, in 1971.
Diamonds are forever.
The Bond franchise made Connery one of the biggest stars in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, he was afraid it had pigeonholed him and no one would take him seriously as an actor.
No one's taking me seriously as an actor.
Borman said,
Connery had just stopped doing the Bond films, and he wasn't getting any jobs, so he came along and he did it.
Yeah, the $200,000 paycheck didn't hurt either.
Yes.
Which was 1/5 of the movie's budget.
Yes, that was worth it. Did you see my ponytail?
Connery's casting was announced in May 1973, the week before filming was to begin.
And everybody said a collective, okay.
Yeah, they're like, what? Connery had done one film after Diamonds Are Forever, The Offense, a British neo-noir crime thriller directed by Sidney Lumet.
Ugh, I want to see that movie so bad.
I know,
That's
we need
the
to
one
find it. Yeah.
where he beats the child murderer to death?
Yes, he beats the... Yeah. It was a throwback to Connery's first two films, both noirs in 1957, No Road Back and Hell Drivers. Connery became well known to American audiences in 1959 while playing the love interest of Katie O'Gill in the Disney movie Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Gosh, these little people. Yeah, you know what they are. You know what these people are. They're leprechauns. They're little leprechauns at him. And I'm going to get their pot of gold.
Connery was cast as Bond in 1962, playing him 6 times over 9 years.
It seems like he played it more than that.
It does seem like it's... Well, technically, it was 7 times.
Right.
Because it was
That's
later.
why it feels like it was more. Thanks, Adam. You got me.
Clarification. Woo.
But it feels like he did like 10 films over 20 years.
I know, it does feel... I was surprised because the first... 4 were literally 62, 63, 64, 65. Like, they just bang, 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 bang. And then he waited a little bit, and then a little bit, and then,
It was made for him. He was so good in that role. I know I'm not the only one, but he was the best of the bunch.
Agreed. He would go on to win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for The Untouchables in 1987.
That's the Chicago way.
He was so good in that movie. God, I love that movie so much.
Well, we talked about this with Meteor. His third act was really when he came alive. I mean, he got to do so much great stuff, and he was still like an actioner. I think the one that kind of got everybody was that Entrapment, where they're like, okay, Sean, you're like 80 and she's 30.
Yeah.
You're her granddaddy.
It's
gross.
Time to put that away.
Yes. I still have the libido of a young man.
He was also nominated for a BAFTA for The Untouchables, but lost, but was also nominated that same year for The Name of the Rose and won the BAFTA for that.
In the Name of the Rose.
Yeah, which is a great movie.
It is.
I enjoyed that movie a lot. He was also nominated for a BAFTA for supporting actor for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in 1989 and Best Actor for The Hunt for Red October in 1990.
Junior.
Oh my God. My absolute favorite part he's ever done. I mean, I know he's great as Bond, but he, to me, is Henry Jones.
We named the dog Indiana.
He's so good in that movie.
Well, he's so we just watched that.
Yeah.
We're watching all the I was gonna say Lord of the Rings movies. We're not. We're watching all of the Raiders of the Lost
Indiana
Ark movies,
Jones.
the Indiana Jones movies to prep for Dial of Destiny.
Yeah.
And God, they're so much fun. And Connery is going against everything that he played. He's not the hero.
Yeah.
He has to be protected the entire time. He's not a macho guy. He's not a gun guy.
Yeah.
Like the one time he shoots, he's just completely shocked by it. You know, he's the goober with the umbrella that like uses the birds.
Watching Raiders of the Lost Ark and seeing what Harrison Ford did for that role, and then seeing Connery play his dad, like you see exactly why Indiana Jones is the way he is.
Sure, because
like it's so brilliant.
Don't you blaspheme, boy!
Smacks him. He smacks him so many times.
Blaspheme.
Absolute favorite. So Charlotte Rampling was cast as Consuela, which, by the way, what was the deal with the names in this movie?
I don't know.
It was Consuela, May, and then the one dude was just named Friend.
Friend.
Have
you seen Friend? Where is Friend?
Rampling is an icon of the swinging 60s. She started her career as a model, appearing in a Cadbury commercial after being recognized by a headhunter while working as a secretary.
Yes. In the Amazon jungles, the headhunter came out and he was about to take her head, and he was like, oh, you're too pretty.
This was a big thing in the 60s. I mean, I wish that it was still a thing, but it's not.
Headhunters?
Yeah. The people that would just use so many people, it was like, oh, yeah, you're cute. Or you look like you could act well. Come, do this thing. And then suddenly they're stars.
Yeah.
Now you got to be in a bad reality show.
Or a TikToker.
Yeah.
Although if you're a TikToker, you don't even need to be on TV. You're making millions of dollars anyway.
No. But they still want to. Her first role was in the 1964 Beatles movie A Hard Day's Night as a nightclub dancer. Her first speaking role was in 1965's comedy Rotten to the Core. She played the main female lead. No comedy was necessary for that part. She played the straight person.
All right.
Rampling wanted to be a serious actress and actually turned down a number of comedy roles throughout her career.
Ugh.
Yeah. She has appeared in 110 films and counting. On her choice of roles, Rampling said,
I generally don't make films to entertain people. I choose the parts that challenge me to break through my own barriers. A need to devour, punish, humiliate, or surrender seems to be a primal part of human nature, and it's certainly a big part of sex. To discover what normal means, you have to surf a tide of weirdness. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, she was also in Ken Russell's
She was. She worked with
movies.
him quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, she was kind of this underground actress that always showed up and was really great. Really good.
Oh, yeah. She's super talented.
Very pretty eyes.
She does, yeah. Rambling said she did the film because it is...
poetry. It clearly states, love your body, love nature, and love what you come from.
She was very excited for her sex scene with Sean Connery, but was disappointed when it ended so quickly.
I was tired. It wasn't my fault. It was a long day.
He just yelled, cut.
Cut. That's what he yells when he ejaculates. Cut! Oh, cut! Print it! That's the one.
In 1971, she appeared in the cult classic Vanishing Point in a scene deleted from the U.S. theatrical release, although it was included in the U.K. release.
Oh.
Vanishing Point's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie so much. But driving, always about driving. Hideo Kojima used Rampling's likeness for The Boss, the main antagonist of his game Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, released in 2004.
Oh, yeah. Great game. I think the best of the...
Oh, really?
I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, and I think 3 is my favorite of the bunch.
It's like me with mob stuff. I just don't care about the franchise. I wish I did, because they seem really fun, but...
Super fun. The original one, I think you dig, because it's mostly just like a stealthy aboard a ship.
Yeah.
Hiding in cardboard boxes, shooting guys, and putting them in lockers.
Right. Rampling will be seen in the upcoming Dune 2, reprising her role as Gaius Helen Mohiam.
Dune 2, Electric Boogaloo.
I still haven't watched the first Dune yet.
Yeah, well, you're not missing much.
Yeah, well,
it's the only thing that's kind
precisely why I haven't watched it.
What I found fascinating about the Dune movie was how Jason Momoa was just beamed in from a different movie, different acting, different. His name was like Shotgun Jones or something, and it just was like, what? Where's he coming from? What?
See, now that makes me want to watch it.
You'll get like 6 minutes of entertainment between brooding desert shots and big old worms.
I love Denis Villeneuve so much, and like I want to like this movie, but
It's a pretty movie, but Dune is not a good book to adapt to cinema. Look, I've tried to read Dune a bunch of times. I think I actually got through it once, but it's all like so much of it is telepathy.
Yeah,
and speaking, and yes, and it's
big eyes staring.
Exactly. Look, if you really want to experience Dune, just watch the old version with Sting.
Watch the David Lynch version.
David Lynch. It's so weird and goopy and odd. And Sting's in it in like a diaper.
They just put it on like HBO Max or Max or something. Like it's. I just noticed it. I was like, ooh, might have to rewatch this.
I think I might have to too.
So weird.
It is. And Kyle MacLachlan was really good, and it was just such an odd movie.
The dude with the giant eyebrows.
Oh, the character actor.
Yeah, the guy that his eyebrows are like 8 feet long.
Yeah, and he's like floating around, big fat guy.
So distracting. If you really want to see good telepathy or like that kind of stuff, Zardoz actually, because they have weird psychic powers they never talk about.
Yeah, and they speak in weird.
And they just open their eyes and point their face at the person.
Some of them do. Some of them just look, and some of them go.
Yeah, or the hand motions. Yeah, exactly. It's very nuanced.
It's literally a bunch of theater nerds, man.
I know.
Who took over a bunch of bored, rich children who took over the world, and it shows.
It does. Sarah Kestelman was cast as May. She was the very freckly woman who was trying to run the experiments.
She was awesome.
She was great. She's such a good actor. Kestelman is a British actor that started on stage. She retired from the Royal Shakespeare Company to star in Zardoz, her first film role.
Nice. Yeah, you could tell she has a theater background.
Oh, yeah. In 1975, she appeared in Listomania, the surreal musical comedy biopic of Franz Liszt from Ken Russell, starring Roger Daltrey of The Who.
Listomania.
I love that song so much. And I've never seen the movie, so I'm kind of curious. I've not seen a lot of Ken Russell stuff, so like it's a hole in my knowledge.
Look, I don't think it's your cup of tea, honestly.
I mean,
Lair of the Right Worm. It's just very over-the-top, sexual. I mean, it's entertaining, but it's just like maybe you'd like it because it's got kind of a he's got a very Lovecraftian undertone to a lot of the things he does. So I take that back.
That's interesting.
I think you might enjoy it.
Yeah. In 1986, she starred as Helena Bonham Carter's mother in Lady Jane. The film co-starred Cary Elwes and Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart, make it show.
She voiced the character Kreia in the video game Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords in 2004.
Nice.
She continues to act on stage and on TV, most recently appearing in the 2022 British medical comedy drama This Is Going to Hurt from Adam Kay, a writer for David Mitchell and Robert Webb.
Not to be confused with Adam McKay.
No. Mitchell and Webb did the Nazi sketch where they slowly realized they might be the baddies. You ever seen that one?
Yes,
yeah,
it's hilarious.
Mitchell and Webb are two of my favorite comedy guys. They're great. Niall Buggy was cast as Arthur Frayne.
Niall Buggy. I've got the most English name ever created. Niall Buggy, Niall.
Yeah, Buggy is an Irish theater actor, having won a number of drama awards, an Obie Award, Drama Desk Award, a Clarence Derwent Award, an Irish Times Theatre Award, and an Olivier Award.
Nice. Who the hell is Clarence Derwent?
He was a writer.
Okay.
He was a playwright.
You guessing at that?
I know he was a playwright.
You sure
I don't remember
about
if he was
that?
British or Irish.
Okay, probably Irish.
He did make appearances in Hellraiser in 1987 as a dinner guest.
I'm eating dinner with the Cinnabites.
The Pope Must Diet in 1991.
Ugh. It's supposed to be called The Pope Must Die, but they all got super cold feet, and they couldn't say The Pope Must Die, so they had to change it to Diet, which is so stupid. Yeah. It was a funny movie, though. Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah, Robbie Coltrane. He's good. Alien 3 in 1992.
Oh, such an underrated Alien movie.
I know, I agree. And Mamma Mia the Musical in 2008.
Mamma Mia, here we go again.
He most recently can be seen in Cobra, a British political thriller miniseries starring Robert Carlyle from Trainspotting.
Not to be confused with Cobretti, Cobra movie I did with, match stick in my mouth the whole time. Just in case I need to smoke.
Just in case we couldn't understand you at all.
Yeah.
The film was shot in Ireland, based out of Ardmore Studios in Bray, County Wicklow. The costumes were designed by Borman's first wife, Christelle Cruz, and were creations based on...
Pure intuition. Okay. There was a lot of, weird cardigan-y type things, and...
Those weird head, wraps. Everyone wore those weird head wraps. It was super
Nothing
weird.
made sense. It was this partially kind of Puritan costumes, and then these very hippy-dippy braless costumes, and then, poor Sean Connery had to wear that red diaper the entire time. They took away his boots and his belts, and all he was just running around in a diaper and flip-flops. You can see the flip-flops when he's running.
Yeah, she decided that because the Eternals' lives were purely metaphysical and colorless, this should be incorporated in their costumes too. As the Brutals were lower, more primitive beings, Crystal decided that they would not care much about what they were wearing, only what was functional and comfortable, which apparently in her mind meant a lot of guys in suits.
Yeah, what the hell? It just seems like a bunch of people just... there was an earthquake in Wall Street, and a bunch of people crawled out of the rubble, and then they were murdered by guys in singlets.
As stated in the magazine Dark Worlds Quarterly, functional and comfortable costumes ended up meaning that the costumes were extremely revealing.
Ooh.
From a review...
It is the costume for the brutal exterminators, and Zed in particular, that raises the eyebrows. In thigh-high leather boots, crossed bandoliers, and shorts that can be described as skimpy, the Brutals, and Connery in particular, exude raw masculinity, particularly as they ride their steeds and fire their guns.
This person understood the movie entirely.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Borman has stated how political and cultural conditions in Ireland at the time affected the production, saying that it was...
very difficult to get women to bare their breasts.
As nudity was a prominent feature in several sequences.
Well, it was a Catholic country, man. Women aren't allowed to... It's shame, baby.
There was also when they're inside the vortex or whatever, and there's where they're growing on the outside. There's a couple of times where people are just full eagle up against the window. It's I'm really glad that person's farther away.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Some of it looked like it was painted. It didn't. I mean, it looked like
there were definitely some real people, and definitely I think there were a lot of mannequins.
I think they just real peopled it when they needed them.
Yeah.
To say something.
He added that a ban on importing rifles, which had been imposed because of the Irish Republican Army, nearly prevented the movie from being made. A giant head that doesn't ejaculate guns would just be ridiculous.
It would be ridiculous, Adam. I mean, ridiculous.
It makes sense. To help keep costs down, Connery used his own car and drove himself during the production. Borman then gave him half the money that would have been budgeted to hire him a car and driver.
Yes.
The idea was Connery's, according to Borman.
Look, I'll drive myself in my own car, my station wagon, my Wagoneer. But you got to give me half the money, Borman.
Okay.
That sounds good to me. Here's your 17 cents.
Yeah, exactly. Connery stayed at the Boorman family house in Anamo, County Wicklow, Ireland for the duration of the shoot.
Listen, Boorman, if I stay at your home, can I get the money for my lodgings as well? Can you put it in with the car money?
That's the funny thing. At the end of each week, Connery would pay Boorman's wife rent money to cover the cost of keeping him there.
Here's 16 cents.
I want to say I think it was $200 a week that she gave her. Yeah.
Yes, for a happy ending.
Cinematographer Jeffrey Unsworth filmed scenes with the lens wide open, fog filters on the camera, and smoke machines on set to achieve a diffused, impressionistic look. It worked on first-generation prints, but when the film was duplicated for later release, the image quality was so bad it was almost unusable.
Bummer.
The studio forbade any cinematographers from using that process on future movies.
Wow, that would suck.
There's only a couple of times, because I knew this going into watching this last time, and there was only a couple of times where I was like, oh yeah, I could see, like that would be bad.
Yeah, but they cleaned it up.
I mean, and they must have used an original negative, yeah. But there was definitely times where it's like, whew, man, it's so pillowy. It's so pillowy.
I mean, that's the same with Excalibur. It's very foggy and, mysterious. And same with Deliverance. There's a lot of mist and stuff in that, too.
That is true. The atmosphere away from filming, fueled by copious narcotics, was so hedonistic that the village of Gary Kennedy, where filming took place, was granted temporary access to a mobile STI clinic.
Ugh. That's sexually transmitted
infections. Yeah.
Yes, I got gonorrhea 6 times. And syphilis twice.
The census, which took place in 1975, also revealed the population of the village grew by 15%.
Yes, we made lots of babies.
Boorman made a cameo in the film as a slave forced into farming, whom Zed shoots, as I said earlier.
In the most just indifferent way. That is just... It was so funny to me, and I know it was done on purpose because it just shows how bored they are.
Yeah,
being,
they didn't want to they want to kill people. Yeah, Boorman was shot with a blank, but wadding became embedded in his forehead and took several days to come out.
Ouch!
Yeah, that sucks.
I got you, Boorman.
Boorman commissioned David Munro, director of the early music consort, to compose the score. While the film is set in the distant 23rd century, Boorman believed futuristic music would contain a variety of old-world instruments. Boorman instructed Munro to use a variety of medieval instruments, including notch flutes, medieval bells, and gemshorns.
This is what you're going to do. You're going to get some notch flutes, some medieval bells, and some gemshorns.
Some what?
Some gemshorns.
I don't even know what you're talking about, Boorman.
I think maybe I made that up.
These instruments, plus snatches of Beethoven's Seventh, gave the movie a truly unusual soundtrack.
Yeah, he ended up doing this too with Excalibur.
Yeah,
using a lot of classical music embedded into the score.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No.
As stated by British conductor Sir Anthony Lewis in 1976.
David Munro did not just emerge into the field of medieval and Renaissance music, he exploded into it. He established a standard that can now never be ignored, and the stimulating shockwaves of his explosion will carry far into the future. Good Lord.
Yeah, he was very excited about David Munro.
Explosive.
After a screening for execs, they were very confused, so Boorman added the opening scene with the floating head, quote-unquote, explaining the movie.
Yeah, well, it did a good job.
The trailer for the film is one of the greatest shorts ever produced, in my opinion. It's what made me fall in love with the movie, and is a microcosm of how weird and nonsensical the film is.
Zardoz.
And it's not the theatrical trailer. There is another trailer that's like 3 minutes long that wasn't on the Blu-ray, which I really don't understand because it is so good.
It's the best of the bunch. The one that we watched is super boring and dumb.
So early 70s.
Beyond 1984. Beyond 2001. Beyond 2020. Didn't it take place in like 2293? 2293. Woo.
It doesn't make any sense.
I love how it went from 4 years in the future to 290 years.
Yes, here we go. Yeah. The film was critically panned at the time by critics and audiences alike.
What?
People getting out of theaters reportedly discouraged others waiting in the queue from going to see it, which contributed to the movie's box office bombing.
Go home, bro.
That's so shitty.
Just get out of here.
I'm sorry. I don't care how bad you think something is. Don't let them decide for themselves.
Just go, dude. Just get out of here. Just get out of here. Just go. You don't want to see this, man. You don't want to see it, man. Just go. Just get out of here.
I don't care if you took acid. Oh, if you took acid, maybe you should go.
Should see it. When Phoebe and I were in Salem, there's this like famous like witches museum that's there, and we went and saw it, and it was awful. It was like watching a one of those old like 60s like info like educational films.
Sure.
But it was all like dioramas, and you just spun around and saw all this stuff, but it was like the sound. It was terrible. We walked outside, and I was just laughing. The guy looked at me. He was like, "Is it bad?" And I was like, "Dude, I can't." It was, yeah, but like you have to see it for yourself.
Well, it's a good bad.
This wasn't even a good bad. It was just bad, but it was like, it was worth the experience.
Well, to you, I would have said, no, don't go.
The guy had already paid his money. It didn't matter. I mean, I was like, just go. Zardoz ultimately earned $1.8 million in box office rentals in the United States and Canada.
What was the budget?
$1 million.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it made $800,000.
Eventually, yeah. Borman would later admit that he was under the heavy drug influence while writing the film and during production.
Yes, I was doing very, very, very copious amounts of drugs.
He also claims that not even he is sure what parts of the film are about, mainly due to the haze of drugs he was in at the time, and feels that several scenes are pointless.
Yeah. If you've ever, I'm not saying I've ever done this, but if you've ever taken drugs and like written something while you're on drugs and you're thinking that it's the most brilliant thing that anyone has ever written, not just you, but anyone.
Yeah.
And then the next day you try to decipher this chicken scratch gibberish. It's just so depressing because at the time it
makes total sense.
Oh yeah. The understanding, it's crazy how the brain works.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave it 2.5 stars out of 4 and called it a
genuinely quirky movie. A trip into the future that seems ruled by perpetually stoned set decorators. The movie is an exercise in self-indulgence, if often an interesting one, by Borman, who, more or less, had carte blanche to do a personal project after his immensely successful deliverance.
I mean,
he didn't seem like he hated it.
He liked it. He just didn't, I think he's in our camp and that he understood that it was a noble failure.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at this point, I think it's a cult classic.
Oh, no, it has, definitely. Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune gave it 1 star out of 4 and called it
a message movie, all right. And the message is that social commentary in the cinema is best restrained inside of a carefully crafted story, not trumpeted, with character labels, special effects, and a dose of despair that celebrates the director's humanity while chastising the profligacy of the audience.
Oh, F you, buddy. F you. That is the most pretentious sentence I have ever read on this show.
Yeah, I agree. That's Gene Siskel in a nutshell.
My love-hate relationship with Gene and
Roger Ebert.
Roger is, I loved them as a child. I did. I loved watching, I started watching At the Movies when it was on PBS and watched it when it was syndicated, and everybody wanted to know what they thought. But
yeah, I still respect Roger Ebert because I think he honestly loved movies.
I think they both did. I think Roger Ebert kept his childlike love more so.
Yes.
Than
Siskel was he had a very narrow view of what he loved about movies.
Siskel loved his own writing. He was in love with his own writing. You can tell by him the way that this sentence is written, and it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's not a film criticism. What is he talking about?
I don't know.
The fun, too, of the show was it was fun when they disagreed on a movie. Yeah. I really enjoyed watching them argue for and against a movie. They're both smart guys, and they're both great reviewers. I give them a lot of crap because I don't agree with a lot of what they say. More so Siskel than Ebert.
Agreed. So Zardoz has since been reappraised as a cult classic, being fun to watch for just how bad it is.
Yeah, but I don't think it's bad.
I agree. I mean, I wouldn't be rewatching it as much as I do if I thought it was a bad movie.
I think it's a super interesting microcosm into the time. I think it is one of the perfect examples of what makes 70s sci-fi so memorable and such a unique time in cinema history.
Yeah.
More so than any other genre.
Yeah.
You know, you had your war movies, you had your this movies, they all kind of were the same or whatever. But these movies whether it's Zardoz or Planet of the Apes or Logan's Run or Rollerball or any of these dystopian future movies. Yeah. They're pretty much all dystopian future, which I love.
No, same.
The thing about 70s sci-fi that is different than other sci-fi, it's much more socially conscious.
Yeah.
60s, 50s sci-fi had to deal a lot with the atomic age and the consequences of that.
Right.
You know, brains coming to life.
Yeah.
Giant animals. You know, Godzilla, like you say, you know, so it was more campy and based on, you know, outlandish things.
Right.
These are outlandish, but they're based in a type of reality that, like, this could almost happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I could imagine somebody going, hey, I discovered the secret of immortality. And then it's just these 300 people that are like, yep, we're going to live forever.
That's exactly what's going to happen. You know, unfortunately, as you point out, a lot. We are in the end stages of capitalism where we have a very small group of people holding on to the majority of assets and money in this country and a growing population of people losing more and more and more.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, once they get that immortality drug and they get that castle on the hill where they can't be found, you know what this movie reminds me a lot of that movie Elysium. You remember that movie?
Oh yeah,
Matt Damon.
Yeah,
and they had the rich elite immortals lived in Elysium
space station thing or whatever.
He had to get up there to save
get some drugs or something.
For I think he had to bring his daughter up there to put her in.
She was dying or something. Yeah.
And the only way to save her was to take her to Elysium. Battle it out with Jodie Foster. Not a great movie, but same. That's the problem, I think. Is there was an earnestness to these 70s sci-fi movies, like almost like a naivete, like this kind of positive naivete that drove these movies that made them so interesting. And even though they were so filled with despair, the ultimate role for these movies was to give hope and to give change, so we don't end up there.
Yes.
And I think like a lot of the movies that try to do that today, they don't know how to balance the social commentary with the entertainment and the wacky weirdness too, and the risks.
These filmmakers that made these 70s sci-fi movies they had hope that what they were making would help change people's minds.
Right.
And I think movies like Elysium were made to make money.
Of course.
And that's it. And it's like, that's the stark difference between the two is that, I mean, of course, John Borman wanted the movie to make money so he could make more movies.
Sure.
But he knew that if people saw this and they just understood it, that we might not go down that path.
And that's the beauty of drugs. Because when you're doing mushrooms or acid or weed, the good drugs, you know, not the cokes and the heroines and the cracks and the bad drugs.
Yeah.
The mind-expanding drugs, they push you to believe that.
Yeah.
There is a positivity to hallucinogens that are great for creativity and great for expanding your mind. There's a reason why therapists are using psychedelic mushrooms and LSD in PTSD therapy and different therapies, because you get outside of your mind and you can see things in a much more a clearer way.
Yeah.
You know, you cut through all the BS and you can kind of, you know, it's not for everybody, but it definitely was for John Borman because it got us this movie.
I love this movie so much. I mean, I'll be honest, the first reason that I looked into this movie was because of the Wizard of Oz connection.
Yeah.
Huge Wizard of Oz fan.
Zardoz. It's a lie.
But the movie's just so weird. I will definitely during our social media week, I will definitely find that trailer, the good trailer, and post it because it is so perfect. It is absolutely amazing. But this is such a good movie. It is a much better movie than people give it credit for. And
much like Soylent Green.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot more going on than meets the eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a great risk for Sean Connery.
Yeah.
I mean, like we said, it's 100% against type. He couldn't be further away from James Bond if, you know, he was a brute. He wasn't that smart. There's no charm to him.
No.
You know?
He didn't even have, until the end, the last like 30 minutes, he had almost no lines.
Yeah. In the first 30 minutes of the movie, there's really no dialogue.
No, yeah.
You know, it's just him running around shooting people. with his ponytail and flying around in the big old head. But if you haven't seen it, see it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a Sean Connery fan or if you're a sci-fi fan. And if you're a sci-fi fan and you haven't dipped your toes into the 70s pool, baby, do it, because you're going to find a wealth of just crazy entertainment, things that you've never seen before, and a changing of attitudes and an incorporating of the counterculture into the mainstream cinema.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I movies like Zardoz were necessary because then you could do more mainstream, like kind of druggy movies, and then it would be accepted. It's like, oh, okay, like, well, it's not Zardoz, but it's like, we'll take it. With Easy Rider with them taking drugs and stuff like that. It's like if it wasn't for something like Zardoz, then that stuff wouldn't happen.
Right. It's a necessary film in terms of moving film forward.
Yeah,
and especially in a socially conscious type of way, and getting these weirdo hippies into movies because it was very popular at the time. The counterculture was still going. We were getting into the 70s where people kind of gave up their activist ways and just kind of pivoted into just smoking dope, sitting around.
Once the
everybody
Vietnam
was
War
exhausted.
Officially ended, they kind of lost focus, and it was like, oh yeah, we're all just sitting around smoking dope now, and that's it.
Because they're tired, man. I mean, the 60s for the counterculture was exhausting. Lots of protests and all sorts of stuff, and killings and shootings. It was you think that people think that like what's going on right now is unprecedented, and oh my God, we're headed towards a civil war. The 60s was much worse.
Oh, yeah.
It was a much more divided country. We had a war that we were divided over. We had the establishment that was desperately trying to hold on to power while the counterculture is trying to erode it. It was and it was a good fight. It was a good fight for the counterculture. They were fighting for the right things.
Right.
And they were winning. Yeah. And Nixon happened and Vietnam, and it's just people got exhausted and were like, F it.
Yeah.
I just want to get high and watch Archie Bunker.
I just want to watch Zardoz.
I just want to go watch Zardoz.
I need to see Sean Connery in a mankini.
Just get it. Just watch it. It's a perfect double feature for our next movie coming up, which is Logan's Run.
Yeah.
They have a very similar feel to them. Very different movies, but they have that vibe that makes it a good double feature.
They're almost set at the exact same year.
Yeah.
Actually, it's really weird.
Yeah. In one part of the country, in the Ireland part of the world, there was the Zardoz going on, and then in Detroit, it was the rollerball was going on, and then over there and wherever, you had Logan's Run.
Yeah.
It was quite a time.
Well, that's all we got. We'll be back next week with Logan's Run. I'm so excited about Logan's Run.
Oh, yeah. We'd both be dead. If it was Logan's Run
dead.
time. Yeah.
Way dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
Who penetrated it? He'd be mysteriously chosen at the time. Who penetrated it?
She retired from the Royal Shakespeare Company to star in Zardoz. Wow.
Oh.
Zardoz.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled program, Garfield and Friends, already in progress.